Um, kind of want to talk about the connection between skinwalkers and cannibalism. You know what I'm talking about? Probably not, but um, first I'll say is my grandpa Joe. Freaking when he was in Vietnam, he used to like repeat the stories over and over again, like because he had PTSD, and I repeat his stories over and over and over. Like I have kind of a inherited form of PTSD from someone else's trauma loop was so powerful that I remember it. Like it's not quite so as intensive as his was. Like he used to talk to dead people in his sleep. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I have freaking night terrors, and people say, "Man, you're doing something crazy in your sleep." I remember one night I woke up and I was fighting a wolf, and I was freaking like punching at the wolf in my dream, and I was really punching at the air in the bed. You know what I'm saying? For instance, so it's legit. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've kind of had intense dreams my whole life too. But this is a little different. But he was saying when he was in Vietnam, he was posted with these dudes, they were like native Aboriginal types in Vietnam, and they wore loincloths. And basically, once they killed you, they would cut the humans open and take a bite of their freaking liver or their heart. You know what I'm saying? And he said basically when the NVC, the North Viet Cong, would see these their own like country. They're not their own countrymen, but look, they're like they live in their land, but look, they just don't even want to f with them because they're too crazy, because they're superstitions, because supposedly when they did that, they owned your soul and you were like a spirit slave. Okay, I mean the Vikings used to do this too. They'd bury treasure, slay some slave boys, bury them with the treasure, and they would cause a poltergeist to protect the treasure. All right, okay, that's a form of cannibalism. When all right, I'm gonna kill you for your spiritual life force to protect my like greed and my look. Life's cheap here. It has been always, but anyway, these freaking North Viet Cong types were part of the freaking Phoenix program, and this Phoenix program was using all kinds of strange guerrilla warfare, psi warfare tactics over there in that time era, and they were employing such types that would literally employ cannibalism as a form of fear porn. I don't even know if it was true. I wasn't there, but my Joe told me about it. Come to find out, part of the Phoenix program. But anyway, what's that got to do with skinwalkers and in cannibalism? Well, it's got to do with cannibalism. But these people truly believe that they have like invisibility, immunability, they have like superpowers, like they're indestructible or they're untouchable. And there has been people who have claimed to employ such methods, and there's some success to it. I mean, it's even in the Bible where people sacrificed people and then they became demonically raged and frickin' actually won some battles like by employing such techniques. But it's like, all right, for instance, John the Baptist was in hairy garments. I think it also mentions Elijah also was in hairy garments. And does that mean they were skinwalkers? I don't think so. I think that symbolizes humility and casting off of fashion. You know what I'm saying? Because really all you really do need to live is a nice tan hide. The Indians employed this method in many ways. You know what I'm saying? So that's quite natural here. So, but that's the same place where a skinwalker can kind of come into play. I mean, there's the men of Valiant were described as lion-ish and like. Does that mean they were skinwalker? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a poetic expression, but at the same time, did they employ hairy garments of natural type without fashion? It's possible. And maybe there's some kind of, it's like hair. They say hair is like an antenna. So if you're wearing a skin with a bunch of hair still attached to it, does that give you enhanced antennae? Like, does that somehow? It's possible. And that could be used also in the dark side. You know what I'm saying? Where, I mean, all right, in Kung Fu, one way, it's almost like character acting. I've heard men who try this, or people who try this character acting thing, where they're always in character, they seem possessed and they start to mumble and they're always in character even when they shouldn't be, okay? So, in a way, you can employ that technique to absorb an animal's spirit in a way and mimic it. And anyone has this talent. Just, I mean, not this talent, but I think it's a human mechanism that we have when we see people. If we really like stretch that muscle, you can do it. You can see something, you can just absorb it and mimic it. Even if it's kind of sloppy at first, eventually you'll get good at it. You'll do it without thinking, and then look, you would seem to be possessed because you can fake it so good, act so good. You know what I'm saying? I've heard stories of the skinwalkers, and there's two of them that I just know from my studies in India and stuff. Just my own tribe, for instance. There's an account of when they seen a couple of men. I shouldn't have said it that way. They seen a couple of wolf skins with men in them, like freaking across the way, like far away, kind of like ancient kind of snipers. And they were trying to get, or not snipers, but reconnaissance agents. And they literally were wearing animal skins and like sneaking around and freaking trying to get a freaking ambush sneak attack, like, and get some intel on what was going on. But the dudes were like, hey, do you see those dudes over there in wolfskins, like way across the lake? They didn't even have binoculars back then, but they were just that good at it, where it was like, wait, man, that's a dude crawling with wolfskin on him. Maybe we should gather, rally the troops, you know what I'm saying? And then the dudes get effed up because look, they effed up. They just they weren't channeling the skinwalker good enough. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you hear of these Viking berserkers. They used to wear animal skins. They would take mushrooms and they would freaking go freaking like, they would have kind of like PCP rage and not having the fear and just being in freaking like it's like basically, if you ever fought a person who's slow in the mind, like, look, they are brutal. Once you trigger them and they go into fight or flight, they're like raw, raw, like Godzilla, and they'll toss multiple people from wall to wall. Or you might fight a guy who's slow and it's like you keep like beating him up, and then he gets up again, he's like, he comes running at you again with the rage. All right, similar to that, I would imagine these berserkers might have an effect, because it's like, for my dabbles in the psychedelics, they do cause like temporary insanity where you're almost like retarded. And it's like, excuse my French, I'm not trying to say that to be belittling or demeaning. And that's the beauty of it, is that you're like, whoa, but after it wears off, you go back to normal, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that was only temporary. Unfortunately, some people are permanently like that, okay? And I've heard more stories about stuff like that. My grandma worked at basically a school for people who had mental disabilities, and she said dudes, they were like 30 years old, And look, but they had the mind of a 4-year-old, and they would go, "Rah!" And they would knock like wheelchairs, and they would go and rolling down the hall. So I'm just showing you some of these powers that can be tapped into. I mean, through dark means. Like if you smoke some PCP, I've heard you get shot, and you won't die. You like, and you'll rip people, like you go raw and just rip somebody in half. So some of these other people, might have such kind of abilities, but it's like but they have disabilities at the same time. But anyway, but what I'm trying to say here is like, look, when you believe and you become crazy, you can tap into freaking crazy animal, primal, crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? And also you can evoke that primal, crazy fear in others. Like, damn, I don't want these motherfuckers to eat my liver and absorb my life form energy and freaking somehow exploit me. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, it's a real fear. And in my own culture, it said that this is a crazy story, but it was like, it said the medicine men became in vogue to do this satanic stuff. It even says satanic in the book, and it said, but it didn't say that it was natural or grassroots. It was because they were introduced to the French. Now the French, they were over in Israel. They mined frickin' Solomon's frickin' stables. They were messing with the Assassins Guild. There was all kinds of medieval alchemists with poisons and other chemicals, and they were into Satanism. Basically, it's like, you fornicate, you start to live easy sleazy. Now you start to frickin' actually murder people and cannibalize them, but they were wearing bear skins, dude. And you heard of the loup-garou, and that comes from France, and it's the werewolf. But you come to find out it was a guy who sold his soul. Some kid, the master of the forest or whatnot, gave him a special salve and a special skin, and he put it on, and he was a skinwalker. But it said that basically it was like they basically, to initiate, it was like a gang initiation where they come in with some meat at midnight and be like, you want to eat this? This is actually that guy that just died last week from the jab. Well, we're cooking him up right now. And basically, you can eat with us and keep it a secret, or you'll be the next guy with the next initiation, frickin'. And it was working on people for a minute, and then basically this guy had a son who was healthy, or a child, and they died mysteriously, and they buried him, and the dude frickin' went and hid at the grave site because he had suspicions. He must already did his homework, frickin'. And he had a special arrow that had a removable tip, so once you shot and it went in, even if the arrow came dislodged, the tip of the tip would wiggle its way deeper in and do more damage to the internal organs. And the dude sat there, and sure enough, he seen someone digging at the grave, and it was a dude in a bearskin. And frickin', well, it's kind of like that movie Silver Bullet. He shot the bear, then he went back home and went to sleep, and then when he woke up, it was the medicine man that was frickin' shot in a bearskin. I mean, interesting frickin' story. That's real, true skinwalker. It happened locally, and I mean, that ain't ancient history. That's only a couple 100 years ago that this happened. So, frickin'. But anyway, I hear of they're even like cutting off human skins and wearing them and getting some kind of frickin' like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the elite types, like the Hostile types, that movie Hostile, frickin', they're doing this stuff with human skin. Like, say you're an old haggish looking woman, you might kill a 14-year-old woman and wear her skin at a party and gain some kind of weird psychic violence, like slavery bondage type, spiritual, occultish type stuff. Anyway, man, skinwalkers and cannibals.